Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Gynarchic Awakening. I'd like to make something really clear before I get into any content during this video. I was on break. I'm gonna go back to being on break. I had to stop. I had to stop. I had to do these two videos because there are some things I keep seeing. Sorry, not things that I keep seeing, but there are things that I saw that were of such a concerning nature that I felt the need to chime in on it. So there's that. That's why I'm here. Second thing that I'd like to do before I get into the primary content is I would like to talk about the positives. The serious Reddit group on Reddit now has 2,400 members. I think that's great. And also, another Australian library has ordered a copy of The Pillars of Gynarchy. Now that we have the positive stuff, it's unfortunately time to get into the negative. So there was a topic that got started in this group, a good question actually, and it's about whether there's does right wing gynarchy or nationalistic gynarchy exist? Well, my mother is actually a registered Republican voter, and when I asked her about what kind of a government she wants, she actually wants a government ruled by women. Of course, there's a bit of nuance to this. Her type of, I mean, I don't know if people know that, but my mother has been, and has always been a lifelong Republican voter. And yet she also happens to have some gynarchic beliefs. She's fine with men running the military or doing this and that, but she just doesn't want men running the government in particular. What she means is the politicians, the ones who vote on the bills. She prefers women running those things. So, could there be right-wing gynarchy or nationalistic gynarchy? Yeah. Yeah, because I know for a fact that there are women on the right wing who have gynarchic values. Uh, I also know that sometimes they integrate their gynarchic values with the existing political culture and the current political values of said culture, which is unfortunate. But that's not what I'm here to talk about, actually. I'm here to talk about some of the commenters and some of the shit that they're flinging because I want to shut this shit down. Because I don't want to find out. I don't want to leave this unaddressed and then find out years later that people were continuing with this lie or trying to propagate a lie like this. And I'm not going to tolerate it. What does it say? It says Geiner. Somebody on some one of the commenters who's blocked now. I saw that comment and I was incensed. They were suggesting that Gynarchists, or actually they were not suggesting, they were stating that Gynarchists are Nazi sympathizers, and that's why the title of the video is Gynarchists are not Nazi sympathizers. I don't know what happened to my culture in the past 30 or 40 years, but there seems to be this ongoing ignorance that has continued to perpetuate itself by members of our population who they don't do research into the people they talk about. They blanket pretty much any group they see as authoritarian with the Nazi word. So let's establish one particular fact here. Women ruling things is not the same thing as men ruling things. If you don't believe that, you should go visit Masuo or some of the other matriarchal societies. When women have power, they're not gathering up 6 million Jews in camps and then turning them into skinned lamps. Camps, skinned lamps. You see the point. It's my inner poet coming out again. Yeah, I've written poetry. First novel, what do you know? So, Women, when they run things, when they have power and authority in their societies, they're not doing this shit. I'm so tired of these people who automatically assume that if women had power, they'd be just as bad as men having power. This is a literal falsehood. This is factually incorrect. It's you can look this up in any textbook that concerns matriarchal societies. You will never find all the crazy shit that Nazis did. Are there some women, some individual women who can be bad, who can do terrible things? We never said otherwise. But when we're talking about a society run by women, we are not talking about individuals. We're talking about groups of people. Groups of people and individuals are not the same thing. They're different. It's just stunning to me. And this comes across like a slap on the face, like you're just a Nazi sympathizer. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because when I wake up in the morning, what I'm thinking about is how to round up about 10, 20 million people I don't like and putting them into camps. I also think that there's an underlying problem here that with this kind of judgment is you are assuming that our motivations are the same. They're not. The motivations that a Gynarchist has for what they do are not the same as the motivations for a Nazi. A Nazi is interested in pretty much one thing and one thing only: a racial hierarchy through bloodshed and violence. They do what they're doing, not because it's the correct thing to do, not because there's a logical basis for it. It's a deep-seated need and desire to dominate people through violence. It's just that all the fucking shit that they add on to that cake, all those layers to that cake, that's what's at the bottom of it. It's a desire to dominate through violence. Gynarchists are consensual people. Like, for example, if I were to become part of that study, I would consent to having women rule. It's not the same thing as let's just kill anyone we disagree with. Name one Gynarchist who said, we just need to kill all the men, we need to do some kind of biological genocide. Name one time when a Gynarchist seriously advocated for that position, right? Because if it's a gender-based hierarchy, if we were the same as the Nazis, wouldn't we be trying to eliminate the male gender and try to find a way for only women to reproduce? I mean, that's the logical endpoint, right? But you don't see us talking about those subjects extremely seriously. We talk about coexistence. We talk about consent. You can find it in Viola Valtrine's book. Obviously, I advocate for it on my channel. I don't believe in using violence to force somebody to go along with a Gynarchy. So right off the bat, these people have a fundamental misunderstanding of how Gynarchists want to obtain their society versus how Nazis want to obtain their society. Nazis tried to obtain their society through violent subjugation. We don't do that. We talk to the men, and the men who are interested and want to consent to being ruled by women will be ruled by women in the communities they choose to be part of. Again, the key word there is consent. And I've noticed that some people, when they want to brand all authoritarians as the same, or all people who have authoritarians as the same, they seem to think that we're all in the same camp, right? Like, people who have certain kinds of authoritarian mindsets could not possibly, there couldn't be any diversity in thought processes, in approaches to getting the kinds of societies we want. There are. So I take personal offense to it when I'm lumped in with people who skinned human beings alive for fucking lambs after putting them in camps. We don't want that shit either. I don't even wake up and think about them most of the time. I'm too busy worrying about how to make money, how to serve the people in my personal life. These are my priorities. My priorities do not include how am I going to kill a group that I have nothing personal against. I don't even think about this shit when I wake up. And I'm pretty sure that most of the other Gynarchists, in and out of that group are not considering that either as a rational solution, because it has nothing to do with gynarchy. Gynarchy is about a hierarchical system of some kind between men and women. And we don't feel that way. We're not interested in that, and we're never going to be like that. At least the Gynarchists who are advocating for the consensual approach. We are not the same thing as a bunch of thugs who go around with their guns and their tanks and their rockets and try to force other people to adopt their fucked up lifestyles. We don't do that. As for the motivation, I kind of got a little off track, but the motivation for being a Gynarchist, one of the motivations that I have is that I had women in my family who were molested, raped. Like, there wasn't a time when I didn't hear a story about it. And there were at least, especially in one case, there was a documented confession of a molestation towards a family member. So, wanting a gynarchic society so that the women and girls in your family can be safe and can feel safe and can walk outside their homes without fear of being raped or fucked up by men in some other way is not the same thing as we need to kill that group of people because we have the right to rule. We have the inherent right to rule, and they should just fall before us and do what we want them to do. That's a very different motivation. A Gynarchist motivation is not to violently subjugate the opposition in order to make ourselves feel better, in order to express some inward desire to violently dominate people. We're not motivated by such things. We are motivated by I can't speak for others, but in my case, I'm motivated by the desire to help nurture and create an environment where women and girls who may end up having similarities to my mother's sister, who like my mother sister, won't have to grow up in such a place. Like, it's one of, if my health ever fully recovers, having establishing a home for women and girls where they can go home and they're like, I'm safe now. I'm safe now. Like, having a place, a home. This is why separatists exist, by the way, but it's one of the many. But having a place or a home or a society where you can just step outside and you don't have to worry about being raped or beaten or having acid thrown in your fucking face, that's what motivates me. I want to put a stop to that. And I don't think people understand the difference in our motivations. I'm motivated by the desire to stop the harmful behaviors that men are causing. And the reason why it went so far as it did in my ideology is because not only did men not stop these activities, they're on the rise. Violence against women is increasing around the world. Sex trafficking is increasing around the world. These things are happening because men want to do it. And so if men are not going to educate themselves, if they don't ever learn to care about women and girls, then it falls on some of us to create communities, to nurture and foster the development of these communities, because that's all we're going to have left. This industrialized civilization is currently in the process of collapsing. And according to what I heard, the rate of warming has accelerated beyond anything scientists expected. According to what I've heard, the scientists are stunned. So we can form and nurture communities. But don't ever slap me with that label and say I'm the same thing as a guy. I don't want to round up men by the millions and kill them. I don't want to slaughter them, and I'm not going to do any of those things. Even in the worst case scenarios, I don't think any rational Gynarchist believes that that's a solution, to just kill all the violent men. No. And the reason is there's moral reasons for this, and there's intellectual reasons for this. And maybe I'll go into my own video on it as a Gynarchist, why I believe that killing men who are violent and whatever, it's not actually a solution. It doesn't do anything. Creating societies where women run those things, where they can condition their men in the ways that they need to so that they don't end up like these other guys. To me, that's the more rational solution. Now, obviously, you need to be able to defend yourself. I don't disagree with, like, I'm one of the Gynarchists. Like, I had no problem with women having guns, being trained, being ready to defend themselves. That's not something I'm averse to. It's just that I have an aversion to the type of violence that's usually associated with Nazism, the kind that involves irrationally fearing a different color of skin. See, this is the thing. This is another thing that comes across as an insult to me. The Nazis had irrational fears of different ethnic groups and and um, and races. They had irrational fears of Jewish people. They used them as scapegoats, right? I don't have irrational fears about men. I lived with a couple of them. I've seen the violence firsthand. I've seen how quickly and how dangerously it can spiral out of control. I've seen the damage that male violence has done to the women and girls in my family. I live with it every time I wake up. Every time. I see the harm. So, my motivations are simple: to create a better place and world for the women and girls who would be coming into it, so that they don't have to suffer through that experience and wonder where is safe. Like, they don't have to, like, come home and constantly have to, like, do you ever wonder why some girls, if you ever paid attention to, like, why, like, this is how one of the ways you can tell that they've been abused is if they're constantly in making sure that they are not alone anywhere in the home and that they're always with present public company. That's one way you know. Like, if they're doing everything within their power to ensure that they're not caught alone with a male family member, that's how you know. And that's a tragedy. And that's also why separatists are like, fuck that. We need our own societies where only women are here, because this is how far gone men have become. This is how much they've tarnished themselves and their image. But is it irrational? It's not an irrational fear. That's the problem. Is men have this, I guess in their mind they think that a rapist is like somebody hiding in the bushes or something. No, read some other posts in the Gynarchy group to tell you the truth. It's in privacy. It's behind closed doors. That's where the rapes and the sexual assaults and the beatings are taking place. It's not in public. It's actually happening privately. It's just that they're facing different abuses in their interactions in public than in private, and they have a compounding effect on somebody's mental health. That's another part of this problem that no one acknowledges. What are the consequences to a woman's mental health after she lives in a society where she doesn't feel safe being inside and she doesn't feel safe being outside, where she's constantly feeling insecure and threatened every day of her life by people who do things and don't even think about why they're doing them? And then you wonder, are these motivations the same? No. They're not the same at all, because one of them is rationally based. One of them has a rational explanation. It's logical for women to be afraid of men in this society. Why? Because of all the content they consume, because of how they're brainwashed and indoctrinated into religion to subjugate women, because of how they have dehumanized women and continue to do so, and because, generally speaking, men are either socially conditioned to be stronger than women. In other words, they are encouraged to exercise and build muscle and all that stuff, or they are physically, generally speaking, physically stronger than women. So let's see. You have a bunch of people you're out in public with who you know that they're probably physically stronger than you. You know that they're likely taller than you. So that means and you know that they might even be faster than you. They might have more training than you. And you know for a fact that unless you have a firearm, you probably don't stand it, or at least maybe some kind of dog, like, for example, a pit bull that can do kind of a lockjaw thing on the guy. If you don't have a gun, and if you don't have a dog that can lockjaw the guy, and if you don't have any training, you're in some serious shit. But yeah, they have no reason to be afraid, right? I think they have every reason in the world to be afraid. And this is just not something that happens in a matriarchal society the way it happens here. Women are afraid to be in the homes with the male family members, and they're afraid to be around men in public because men don't give a shit about what other men are doing. And that goes to show you that we are not the Nazi sympathizers in this situation. We sympathize with these situations that women find themselves in, and we want those circumstances to end. We don't want there to be rapes in their homes, or molestations, or beatings, or killings, or acid attacks, all this other crazy shit. We want it to stop. That is not the fucking same thing as wanting to round up millions of dudes and kill them in camps just because we don't like them, or just because we think they're a threat. It's not the same thing. And we don't want to do that in the first place, and we're not going to do that. Frankly speaking, I'm going to do that video later on why it's pointless to even think about this. Only delusional minds think that genocide or mass murder actually works. It doesn't. Aside from being a complete moral failing of the people who engage in it, it's also a logical failure. Anyways, I think I've made it clear we're not the Nazi sympathizers you're looking for. Please just leave us alone. I'd appreciate that. I just want women and girls to be safe in their homes, on their streets. I don't care, like all this other Nazi shit that you're trying to project that onto me. No. Take that somewhere else.